Pun intended, because I'm rolling a joint right now. Um, so before we get started, do you go by Nicholas or Nick?
Nick is fine.
Awesome. Well, Nick, welcome to the Chillinois podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you doing?
Do About to be doing better. The pun that people may have put two and two together on is the fact that, like I say, I'm rolling a joint. And I said we're gonna roll right on into this show. So yeah, things are about to be better as I spark up this joint. Um, I'm really excited to talk to you today. I'm all about trying to support our local Chillinoisans, and you have a local business. We'll get into that, but I just want to give you the floor. Please introduce yourself. Tell me a little bit about yourself, and I'm sure we'll naturally segue into what you're doing nowadays.
Sure, man. So my name is Nicholas. I'm 22. I own this business called 420 Pipes, and we're an online head shop marketplace in Springfield, Illinois. Um, and my life story, I guess, as I've told it before, I grew up in a small southern Illinois town called Taylorville. Growing up in a religious household that was a Jehovah's Witness. So growing up, I heard about how cannabis is the devil's lettuce, and if you smoke weed, you're going to get possessed by demons and a bunch of old, old nonsense, essentially wise tales, as you will. Um, and when I was 17 years old, I decided that I actually didn't believe what people were saying about the plant, and I wanted to try it. So I worked at Walmart at the time. My best friend and I were like, what we're gonna do, we're gonna try it. So we got some, the only weed I could find, which was like a quarter of some brown weed in Springfield or in Taylorville. But I was a kid at the time, so you got to do what you got to do. And I tried it, and I have never looked back. I've always had anxiety ever since I was a kid, and the first time I ever tried cannabis, it helped me navigate that. And I knew that that was like the demonization of the plant was not legit. However, I got busted when I was 17 by my family, and I was actually shunned from the religion. So all my friends and family that I knew wouldn't couldn't talk to me because of the religion, because I decided to use cannabis. And then after that, I knew I needed to get out of my parents' house. I went into banking. I was a loan officer for the time that I was like, I went into banking when I was 18. I became a loan officer when I was 19. And I did that until May of this year. I was working on this project, the 420 Pipes project, and I had just started to launch my marketplace. And I was fired as a loan officer on May 4th. And from then, it's just been kind of my mission. I realized like I'd already put my face on this company. I was a loan officer, so I was working in a pretty conservative, socially conservative environment where not everybody was so accepting of cannabis.
Sure.
Um, and since I had put my face on that company, I knew I was like, this is what I'm doing. I'm going all in. So my wife and I started working on this, and we got a business partner from her work that works with me full time now. And this is what we do. So we started off as an online head shop, selling items for $4.20. And I realized whenever I was doing just that, that I was kind of directly competing with my favorite head shops. So there was one around me, Penny Lane, shout out, that I've loved my whole life. Everybody loves. That's like the known head shop that people drive all the way into town from all the towns around. And I felt like I was stealing business from them by having a small business, selling the same things, right? Kind of at a cheaper price. And I thought, like, how can I help people like that have been running, paving the way for all of us new people in a time where cannabis is legal, where they've been around since the 70s and they've had to deal with all the BS that they've had. And now, as everything gets legalized and people are adapting to the online market, what can I do to help those guys? So I started my marketplace platform, where I do, fulfillment and sales and stuff for these small businesses all around town. And that's what I've been doing since April. My first partner was Prairie State Hemp. We started listing their glass online. But what we've seen is that even though cannabis is less and less taboo and the use of cannabis and smoking is less and less taboo, a whole bunch of head shops across the country, Illinois included, haven't adopted the online model. So, we help them with that. We help them have a broader reach of customers and, more online as well. So that's been my focus since then. And now we have 10 partners. So I'm really happy about that. Everybody that we work with is an owner operated, either a head shop or like a glass blower or somebody in that range. So we're helping exclusively small businesses sell all across the country.
Very cool. Very cool. And the website's 420pipes.com, right?
Yes, sir.
420pipes.com.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, folks, if it's easier, we've got that link in the podcast description. So whichever platform you're listening on, if you look in the description for this particular episode, you'll see a link to 420pipes.com. So that's super cool. Super
Thanks,
cool.
man.
So how's it been going?
It's been a struggle, right? One thing whenever we're helping other small businesses, we're helping them sell online because of how many headaches come with selling online. A lot of these guys haven't needed to yet. And so they go to open up a shop and they get shut down. They can't advertise. You can't promote anything on Google or Facebook or whatever. And they haven't really had like a solid avenue to do that. And then it's expensive. So, we've taken kind of all those headaches and smoothed it out for them, but it's been a headache for us. It's like sometimes we're falling upwards. It's always been upwards, but it's much more complicated to market your business in this space than it would be if we were selling something like t-shirts, where you could just market that anywhere. So because of that, it's been a challenge, but it's been worth it. It's been paying off.
Yeah. And I realize with the name 420 Pipes, it's kind of hard to pull this card. But, back in the day, I felt like they were able to pull the whole like, oh, it's for tobacco. It's an herbal grinder. Are you not able to pull that card anymore? Like, like as far as facing those difficulties?
So yes and no. Oddly enough, anybody who's running these platforms or who doesn't want you to be able to sell stuff like this,
Sure.
they don't know what 420 pipes means still. Like nobody understands. Anybody who's not in the culture still, they don't know what 420 means.
Mhm.
So like even whenever I've had to talk to the banks and the payment processors and whoever, it's like we have to explain the nomenclature with them because they just don't get it. So that hasn't really been that much of an issue. However, we're a cannabis business. We put that on our website, like we are not a tobacco business. We don't promote
Sure.
tobacco use. So that has been one thing that we could take advantage of more to potentially promote our products. But since we're trying to be a cannabis positive business,
No, I
and like
get
the
it.
hub for the local head shops and whatnot, we don't want to have to be like, oh, you also have to hide here. It's like, no, you want to sell a bong, sell a bong.
Sure.
You're not selling a water pipe, you're selling a bong with us, right?
Cool. I
So
like that. Yeah. You're kind of leading the charge like collectively, if I may say that. Would you agree with
yeah,
that?
yeah, and I'm one of many. Of course, there's a lot of people. We call it like I call it the Smoke Local Coalition, but we have a group of people like all of my vendors. I kind of refer to them by name, like by their own name, the owner's name, because basically everybody that we work with is just a person with a dream. And so, yeah, I'm doing the marketplace. I'm trying to be the hub to help all these people sell their products and to give like a consumers a trusted place to go and easily buy these products. But there's a lot of other guys too that are like a part of it as well. That I think it's really cool. It's just really cool to have able to do what I'm doing now. And I wouldn't be able to do that if there wasn't several other people that think like us that want to support small businesses and, support each other, and just be like cool with each other. And because I think in this space, we kind of invite that more than other spaces. Um, I've had the opportunity to do this, yeah, but it's not just me.
Sure. Sure. Well, hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, no, I like that. That's super cool. I only bring that tobacco thing up because it's just kind of a funny remnant of our past that maybe even at this point some people might like there comes a point where people might forget that that was a thing or because they've never experienced it. I don't mean to say they forget, they never knew, right?
Yeah,
I remember growing up that yeah, you couldn't call a bong in a head shop. But like nowadays, you can just be like, yeah, can I get that dab rig? I want to do a bunch of dabs out of that dab rig. And they're like, yeah, for sure. You
they
know,
recommend you the dab rig based off of the experience that you want. And back in the day, it was just like glass. You want to buy the glass? Buy the glass. Yeah.
right.
There's still some like I said, Penny Lane. You go in there and ask them if they sell bongs, and they tell you no. Like, and I get it because whenever you've been in the industry for a long time and you've experienced all the negativity that these different people have had to experience, due to the government or public opinion or propaganda, I totally understand where they're coming from. But one of my partners, Happy Hut, is also they're 23-year-old business owners, first time business owners that actually acquired that business in Decatur, and they still have some of those old signs up, just like as remnants, just like really funny old like don't say bong, don't talk about anything illegal, stuff and just posted up at the store that's been there forever. And it's wild to
That's
think
funny.
about how these kids that are like, my age when I started smoking, like 17, when they can legally smoke when they're like 21, obviously don't smoke until you're 21. When they can actually go in and participate in the culture, they might not even know about the old tobacco rules, like you said, especially since tobacco is kind of taboo, especially within like the younger generation. Everybody's
Yeah.
more accepting of cannabis and more against tobacco than I think ever before.
Yeah. And I feel like I just, you got to be careful sometimes because people will say they're like, oh, I saw this headline. But then it's like when you really think about it, it's like, nah, you saw like a semi meme and that's what you retained in your memory. Right. So what I think, I got to be careful about saying this, but what I was going to say, I think I saw is in the UK. So Google this, people. That's what I'm really trying to say. Sorry, I'm high. Um, I'm pretty sure in the UK or somewhere, they're actually starting with like a year and they're making it so that tobacco is completely legal or illegal. Sorry. Like, let me describe it this way. Like, I don't know that this is the year that they chose, but let's just say they chose the year 1998, right? So if you were born in 1998, like they basically make it so that the age that you have to be in order to get tobacco like raises each year. So I think it's like 26 one year, 27 one year. But if you're, again, I'm having trouble explaining this, Google it, but I don't even know why I'm explaining it at this point. It's just interesting that that's how some other countries are going with this.
Yeah,
I guess is what
and
I'm trying to say.
I think I've seen a similar, like at the same article that you're talking about. I don't think it's the UK, but I know it's overseas. It's like uh, man, it's like Finnish. It's like Finland, I think.
Yeah.
I think. But it's like there's been so much pushback on that law. And like there's a lot of interesting theories on that because like on one hand, I don't promote the use of tobacco. I don't use tobacco, but people should be able to do what they want whenever you're an adult.
Yeah. Okay.
Um,
I just Googled it. I think the article that I saw was New Zealand and it says
New
to
Zealand.
ban, yeah, the headline is New Zealand to ban cigarettes for future generations. And the source is BBC. And basically they say anyone born after 2008 will not be able to buy cigarettes or tobacco products in their lifetime under a law expected to be enacted next year. Okay. So, and this was written in 2021. So it's possible that this didn't happen. Like you said, I'm sure that rightfully so. I'm sure there were objections. Again, I'm not like, again, I don't know why I feel like we've talked about tobacco a little bit more than than we ever might have planned. But again, I'm not a proponent of tobacco, but I'm also not a proponent of prohibition.
Yeah.
And
Me
Yeah,
neither.
I guess I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, I've seen. So I've actually heard a couple of episodes of your podcast before on Spotify, is where I usually listen to it.
Thanks for
Plug in
listening, man.
free. Absolutely, man. It's a good podcast. But I've seen you talk about, yeah, like mention like prohibition on like psychedelics and stuff like that as well. Um, and yeah, as myself, without getting into the too political on that side of things, I don't think that prohibition has ever been the answer. And I think usually there's a lot of disinformation in prohibition, and I think it's not helpful.
Yeah,
I think, especially even on dangerous drugs, where people do get sick and die, having the prohibition doesn't stop people from using them. It just causes them to use them in a very unsafe way and not have an environment where they can get help. Um,
absolutely.
and so, yeah, I've never been a fan of prohibition at all, but especially
Yeah.
in cannabis where it's all based in propaganda anyway.
Right. I mean, I'd argue they all, all drugs fall under that envelope. But yeah, definitely let's start with cannabis because it's digestible for folks. You know what I mean? I get what you're saying. But yeah, totally
Yeah.
well said. Well said.
Thanks,
Yeah.
man. Yeah. Yeah. I saw, what was it? Colorado, they're decriminalizing, was it psilocybin mushrooms and LSD or something like that?
Yeah, I believe all psychedelics actually. So,
Sweet.
DMT, LSD, psilocybin, you name it. Now it's not legalized, it's not available for commercial sale, but you can cultivate it yourself. You can have as much as you want. I don't believe you can gift it to each other technically. I might be wrong on that, but yeah, definitely an interesting policy proposal for sure, you know?
Yeah. I mean, again, that's like a good first step, especially in an age where we're still on a federal ban on cannabis, you know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And Oregon actually is, I believe, in the first steps or close to, you know, actually rolling out and doing a psilocybin program. We recently had Dr. Eric Lee on the podcast, and I believe, he's still maybe doing stuff with Green Mind Physicians in Illinois. But he told us he's ultimately going out there and he's basically going to be a mushroom doctor. So it's going to be super cool. Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. Yeah, I feel like that's got to be one of the best things. Just studying psilocybin mushrooms. I think there's a lot that we need to uncover about those, and especially growing up with the propaganda around those. There's a lot of people that talk about, oh, you have a bad trip and you never come back, and you get
Right.
brain damage from this stuff. And I could tell you, that's not the case. Even whenever you have bad trips, it's not like you're stuck in the bad trip. Um, and for me, and I'll go on record, like on the come up the next day after you take those mushrooms, even if you had a bad trip, for me, it's the best I've ever felt. And I feel like you get to experience something about yourself that it's hard to access otherwise.
Yeah.
So I'm very interested to see, studies, actual legitimate studies on that.
Yeah. I've heard that consistently. I mean, at least consider it anecdotal, but the people that I've spoke to that have had positive experiences with psilocybin all basically describe, yeah, that sense of, awareness of self, but also just this profound feeling of happiness, but also calm, just this realization that, we're just this blip in a vast like spectrum of time. And, life is only ultimately meaningless, but you can definitely find meaning in it. I don't know. I'm just going,
Yeah.
I'm going off the cuff right now. Everybody has their different experience, right? But ultimately, like I say, what I've heard is unanimous is it being a positive experience.
Absolutely. I think that it's a positive just all around. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm not the right person to talk about that, but because I'm definitely biased in my opinion, right? Obviously, there's medical risks to everything, and there's long-term consequences that I definitely don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what the long-term effects on my body would be for the times that I've tried psilocybin mushrooms, but I feel like my life has been benefited obviously I'm not the type of person that's using this like, once a week. For me, it's like every several months. I'm like, you know what? I'll take a trip and I'll do that. And I think that that's been a very good thing for me. Again, that's anecdotal. But I'm very interested to see where that goes. And it's interesting, talking about the kind of the existential nihilistic journey that people have whenever they're on those types of drugs. The sorry, I'm also high, man.
It's
The
all good.
psychedelic
It's
drugs,
what this is
like
all about.
mushrooms. Whenever back to my life, I'll be candid. Whenever I was 17 and I was shunned out of my family, I was on a multiple year long existential journey, to the point where, like, even now, like people talk about going through an existential crisis. It's like I was in that for 5 years, and now, what really helped me with my life, was getting fired from the credit union, in May, and realizing, like, because I thought that if I got fired and I missed one paycheck, that it was like the end of the world. And now it's December, and I am only doing this full time, and I'm only, focusing on this, and we're dedicated towards this. And of course, I have the support of my wife as well, my business partner as well. So it's not just me, but the taking the step back and allowing yourself to decide what matters to you is like really important to me. And I think that a lot more people would benefit if, instead of like searching for a purpose or trying to find a third, external force to tell them exactly what it is that they need to do with their life, to, instead examine themselves and find out what works for them, what matters to them, and what's important to them. Because, like you said, we are just a blip. At the end of the day, like, I'll close this podcast. Maybe we never see each other again, or maybe we become good friends. But, like, at the end of the day, what matters to us is that we pursue what works for us, what we decide. But it's all about the decisions that we make, and not an external factor telling us, oh, this is what we need to do. I need to do X. For me, with 420 Pipes, I run this business because of not only is there a need for it, right? Not only is this a niche that I know that I can fill, especially with, big acquisition firms in Canada like High Tide buying all of the online head shops in America, just waiting for federal legalization because they think they can come in and acquire the whole nation, and run the game here. They can't, and they won't. But not only is there that need, but there's also the satisfaction. I like what I do. I like helping small businesses, and I pursue this because of that external goal. And I think that a lot more people should do that. Like, don't be stuck somewhere that you don't like, and that just because you feel like you need to. So
Yeah, I mean, like, if you think about it, somebody told me this way, and, maybe it was just that I'm just behind the tide, and, everybody thinks about it this way. But for me, something that made me have an epiphany is like they were describing work, and they basically said that, work, going to work, they are paying you for your time out of your life. Like, your life is so short, and that is, like, yes, of course you need a paycheck, but, like, ultimately the reason so many, and I don't mean to say so many people are offering jobs. I get the impression that maybe, finding a job is maybe kind of hard right now. I'm not trying to say that finding a job is easy, but the reason that people offer jobs, right, is because they need to buy people's time in order to get their job done, right? So
sure.
I don't know if when I thought about it that way, instead of thinking about a job as like, oh, I need it for this income, it's like, they're paying for time out of my day, they're paying for
Yeah.
my time and my focus, right?
And your skills too. Yeah.
And your skills, absolutely. So
Yeah. And that's another thing that I feel like people don't really talk about enough. As a business owner, I understand, you got to pay somebody, especially in the type of system that we're in at the moment. I pay somebody, I expect to get a little bit more than what I pay them out in value. Otherwise, I can't afford to pay them. That it just doesn't make sense. But also, whenever you're
right.
an employee, and for me, I worked in banking. I wanted to do a YouTube channel. I had a financial, don't know, nobody look it up. I had a finance channel when I was like 19, because I realized that I knew way more about credit, and there was like way too many, like, too much misinformation on credit at the time. I made a bunch of YouTube videos. I almost
Now, why
got
the hell
fired
would
from
you
the.
tell people not to look that up? That sounds like useful information. I'm just
Well,
joking.
it's
I'm just messing with you.
okay. I was like, it's pretty cringe, so don't go over there. Yeah, I was a little.
Yeah.
That's
Sorry.
when I
I hope I
started
didn't
learning how to
cut.
make
I
videos.
hope I didn't make you lose your train of thought. Please continue.
No, you're good, man. I am high, so I don't really know if I have a train of thought, but um, but yeah, I mean, like I wanted to make those YouTube videos, and
Right.
I almost got fired for it. I had to take down like most of the content, hide a bunch of the content. And then whenever I went to the credit union, of course, I got fired for this business, but it's not even just about the amount of time that you're dedicating over there, because yeah, you're dedicating a certain amount of time. People talk about these hourly wages, like like I was making $21 an hour, plus commission, which is not much, but it was livable for my wife and I. Um, when I worked at the credit union, but it's also about, you're not just dedicating 40 hours a week for $21 an hour. You're dedicating more like 45, first of all, after all your lunch breaks. But on top of that, once you have a somewhat professional job, you have to sign away so much of your liberty over to this company that they'll dictate what you do after the clock, as in like, what you're promoting on social media, which, to play devil's advocate, of course, if you work for me and you go on, say something, insane on social
Sure.
media, then yeah,
Sure.
yeah, right. But like, they get very specific, and they really want you to sign away a bunch of, your rights, and to
Yeah.
work for a company that pays you enough to maybe pay rent.
Right. Yeah.
Um,
A few examples, drug testing or like, because that's a very clear violation of your liberties that's widely practiced. Another example, though, that I think you were specifically referencing is like if you worked at, like, I don't know, some corporation, they may not want you like posting on your Facebook. Like if you're friends with people at work and you're posting on your Facebook, like, yeah, ripping my bong after work, like even though it's illegal in some states, they'll still call you on that, you know?
yeah, yeah, and they can fire you for that too, and they'll put stuff like that in their social media policy, and then put it in a handbook that nobody ever reads, and then fire you if you do something like that, which is absurd. And drug testing specifically is definitely a little bit of a violation. I understand, like I have
Oh, it's
friends that
yeah. Sorry.
are
Keep going.
truckers. Oh, you're good, man. That are truckers that have to drive a truck, for a living, and they got to get drug tested to make sure that they don't have any cannabis in their system at all. And to me, I think that's a little absurd, because they can drink alcohol, obviously not while driving. They're still allowed to have alcohol in their system, but there's a zero tolerance for cannabis. Even though, like, of course, I would never promote somebody to smoke and drive, but people should be able to do what they want when they get off work.
Yeah, it's definitely a nuanced topic for sure. But what I was gonna say that I was just gonna say that, it's more than a little bit of a privacy invasion. Like, and I'm not an expert in this. I've heard, I'm trying to think, I think it's Hamilton Morris talk about this, like urinalysis, and otherwise the analysis of urine, um, is such an invasion of privacy. Like they can see so much more than what drugs you've used. And now, whether or not you really care to share your diet, it's just the fact that you like involuntarily are basically sharing, a bit, like that's your DNA, like it's just weird that we've
Yeah,
accepted it.
you
And
know what?
apparently it started during a debate in the 80s or 90s. Look it up, folks, where basically the presidential candidates all said, like, yeah, I'll take a drug test to prove I'm not on drugs, and they all did that, and it became common practice in, employment. So,
Wow. Yeah, I've never even thought about the other things that they could see that, could be, your dietary information, like you said, or your health information.
sure.
If
Yeah, I did.
you're
Yeah,
sick or
exactly.
whatever, yeah, maybe you don't want to disclose that you have diabetes or something. And
Yeah.
now that's on your urinalysis. Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
That's
Like I say, I
definitely,
don't know much about the topic, but I've heard people, kind of air their privacy concerns about, about that. Yeah. But like I go back to, it's a nuanced topic because like you say, you don't want somebody driving a huge truck with a big load under the influence. So how do we square that circle? I don't know. That's a tough question.
yeah, there definitely needs to be some sort of solution to that sooner rather than later. And it needs to not be this huge invasion of privacy.
Right.
Not the urinalysis is not the answer, but we need to find one that works as
Yeah,
well.
and the shame is that cannabis stays in your system so long, so truckers literally can't just like they can't just do it once in a while. Like even if you do it once in a while, you're rolling the dice on, since am I wrong in saying that most people accept that it's about 30 days at times for cannabis to get out of your system?
Oh
It's
yeah.
like it sucks, you know. So
Yeah, I know because working in banking, you got to pass the drug test anyway. So I know for me, what I would do whenever I would have to get a urinalysis is, and this is not advice, is I would stop smoking from the time that I had the first interview up until the time that I would accept the job. And then I would go to the corner store and buy those probably totally fake like kidney flusher things. And I would drink those. And then I'd buy like a 24 pack of water and just flush my kidneys until basically, and I wouldn't smoke until my drug test. So usually like after my first interview, I'll have a drug test scheduled within 12 days from that first interview. I'd buy two drug tests that I would test before my test, my official one, that home drug test to make sure that I would pass, and then I would still continue to just honestly be the most hydrated that I've ever been. It's pretty
yeah,
good for my system. Whenever you're afraid of a drug test, that's how you know you can get hydrated. But yeah, other than that, I would be amazed. I would be interested to see on how long it would take for me to pass a drug test if I just stopped smoking cannabis today. I bet it'd be a long time.
yeah, yeah. Same, same. Well, I guess, before we head out, once again, 420pipes.com. You can go there for tell us like what generally you have on there. I mean, it sounds like you have pipes, but do you have bongs? Like what you got on there, man? And then I've got other questions for you, but I want to make sure we plug, the business one more time before we talk about other things.
For sure, man. So yeah, we sell pipes, chillums, hand pipes, grinders, anything that you could think of to smoke with. Rolling trays, papers. We're partnered with a couple of Illinois companies. So one of my close friends and partners, Sam Brubaker, owns a company called Prairie State Hemp. We sell a bunch of their glass, but he's a CBD store here. We also sell like Spliff Society rolling papers, rose cones, stuff like that as well, like that. And we have an exclusive bong line. We partnered with a company from Lamont called CS Drift. That is an American-made acrylic bong line that we offer as well. So we have, I don't know, like over 1,000 products total now. And we're now doing, we just got t-shirts, posters, socks, and apparel, stuff like that as well. We have a few partners for that. And I've been wanting to expand into a grow store. So that's my next venture. But as of right now, yeah, we have a clothing and apparel, and then just anything that you would need to smoke with.
Very cool. Very cool. 420pipes.com. Once again, that's in the podcast description. So are you comfortable talking about being a Jehovah's Witness? Are you comfortable talking
For
about
sure,
that?
man.
Okay, cool. Tell,
Yeah.
tell like sounds wild. Um, just really quick, we had a comedian on in the past, Lucas McCreary from Austin, and he posted this funny like impromptu moment. He asked somebody like, if they were religious growing up, and they said, yeah, they were Jehovah's Witness, and he like off the cuff responded like,
Was anyone here raised religious? Jehovah? Holy shit. I bet you got thick thighs, dude, just walking around all the time. You got calluses on your knuckles? Just fucking Dude, that's a first. Jehovah's Witness. That's a first. Get the fuck out, dude. Get the fuck out. I love you, dude. Get the fuck. I mean, you've heard that before. Get the fuck out. So you're used to it.
Anyways, like, did you have to do that? Like, what was it like?
Oh yeah, for sure. So that's like a requirement, right? So they tell you that it's not a requirement, but if you don't do it, then you're like looked down on in the church. You don't have like responsibilities, quote unquote, and you can't really like parents if you're not going out in what they call service. So that's the preaching work where they're going door to door, kind of like do like Bible sales, essentially. If you don't do that, then your parents, your friends' parents are all going to be like, oh, Nicholas, he's not going out in service. He's irregular. He's not a good Christian. So they see you as a bad influence. But yeah, growing up, that was definitely something that I have memories of as far back as I can remember, like being in a suit and tie as a baby through my adolescence all the way up until I was a teenager. Every Saturday morning, we would go door to door all throughout Taylorville, knocking on people's houses and trying to preach to them about Jesus. And then whenever I was 14, I made some friends with some people up here in Springfield. I still lived in Taylorville at the time. And a bunch of the people that I had made friends with were all part of a fully American Sign Language congregation. So I went there. I knew nothing about ASL. I loved the language. I loved deaf people because one thing about me is that I'm kind of blunt, like not even in like a rude way, just naturally. I like people to be direct with me, and I'm inadvertently direct with people. And in sign language, like if I have a bad haircut, for instance, Cole, you might be like, oh, Nick, your hair's looking interesting today. Who cut it? But one of my deaf friends would just be like, your hair's weird. And I'm a big fan of that. So I fell in love with the language. And I really love the fact that like, if I'm at the ASL meeting, then I could just sit there and try to understand what they're saying. And that was fun to me, versus being in English and you're just getting preached at on the same stuff over and over and over again about stuff that, like what kid wants to go to church anyway? So it was more fun for me in that front. And then in order to be a part of the sign language church, you have to be more exemplary because you're leaving like English and you're going into a foreign language. They let us join anyway, even though we didn't really have the service time required to go, which was like, I think 30 hours a month dedicated to preaching. But from there, once I moved to Springfield, I homeschooled and I graduated when I was 16. And I focused on preaching in sign language. I was really excited about that just because, like I said, I was a kid. It was way more fun than English. And in preaching, whenever you're doing it for sign language, for the most part, you're going to small businesses and asking them if they know anybody who's deaf and trying to find them. So for me, it was less time that I had to actually spend preaching something that I was believing in less and less and less, and seeing the writing on the wall that, perhaps this is more of a dangerous cult than a religion. And then I started making friends and opening up to those friends where I would like every once in a while, I would say something that was not in line with the religion that I knew, like they believe in the Great Flood, right? The Noah's Ark whole thing, like they believe in that to its entirety. And I remember I told one of my best friends, I was like, yo, we don't believe in evolution and we believe in this flood. And, we also believe that this flood happened only like 4,000 years ago. And if that was true, then God would have to create. And I think it was like over 1,000, like maybe even over 2,000 animals per day, every single day to today. Like that's why I had done the math on it, because I thought it was like crazy every single day until today to like have the amount of animals that we've discovered on Earth. Isn't that wild? And he's like, yeah, the flood totally didn't happen. And then that was, my best friend, Jesse, who, he's done some work with me and he started this company with me. But unfortunately he can't focus on it full time with me right now. But hopefully one day he will be able to. Him and I became really close over that. And that's how we both decided to do cannabis as well, is because I had known, other people that liked it. He had worked in the restaurant industry. So of course everybody smokes weed in the restaurant industry.
Oh yeah.
And we were like, let's do it. So yeah, it was definitely, no holidays, no birthdays, no friends outside of the religion. And for me, being in sign language meant that we were going door to door all the time. At that point, it was like I was doing like 5 hours a week or 5 hours a month as a kid, like doing the minimum. And then whenever we came and did sign language, it was like 30 to 40, just because everybody was going on Wednesday, and we had our church, we call it meetings. Well, they call it meetings. We had those on Saturday mornings as opposed to Sunday. And so we were going at a minimum all day Wednesday, all day Sunday, looking for deaf people to preach to. And I liked it because, like it was new. It was new. And I felt like I could help people because teaching deaf people the Bible, even though now I don't believe the Bible and I definitely don't believe the Jehovah's Witness rhetoric, um, getting to teach them that in their native language was really awesome. And now, as a business owner and doing what I do, a lot of the connections and what I've been able to accomplish has been entirely based off of my abilities to speak with people, including sign language. And so, having that skill, being able to communicate with people, like even out in public, if somebody's trying to like navigate and I realize that they're deaf, I'll talk to them, I'll sign for them. And then they'll basically ask me to help them with, ordering something at the restaurant or whatever that they're at. And so just like having that skill is nice.
Sure.
But then also like the confidence to just go in to somebody's house or to somebody's business and, ask them for business or to talk to them about their business whenever like they have no reason to do that. Like that was absolutely a skill that I gained from being a Jehovah's Witness. And like now, like whenever you're bootstrapping and you're a startup, you have to find whatever creative way to market your business. So that
Are you
was how
saying that? Are you saying that being a Jehovah's Witness, like one of the good things you got out of it is that you can go up and knock on somebody's door and not really have a lot of nerves?
Yeah, it was, yes. And especially with me, like, like I said, I'll be honest, I'm riddled with anxiety, man. Even like, you get high now and I don't knock on anybody's door, but whenever I first started really marketing my business, I have a bunch of flyers, like trifold flyers. I modeled it off of the tracks that I used to hand out as a Jehovah's Witness, bro. And I'll go to the apartment complexes and I'll just put them all in the doors, just all on the door handle. Because as long as I don't use their mailbox, it's not illegal. And I'm not taping it on their door, and I'm not the flyers that I'm handing
And
out
you learned
aren't
that from being a Jehovah's
solicitations.
Witness.
Oh yeah, 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 absolutely. And I got the confidence to do that. So whenever I'm doing that, usually I'll bring another person with me, so that way, like just like that classic two Jehovah's Witnesses type thing. It feels safer because whenever you're in random neighborhoods, it's definitely dangerous. Even if you don't know where you're at, it can feel, well, at least it feels dangerous.
Sure.
And
So you got
then
another person with you, a Bible, a pack of cigarettes, and a gun, some flyers, right?
absolutely, yeah. Well, yeah, you gotta stay strapped. But I would go just like wearing like a shirt. I don't really wear ties anymore, but
Sure.
like a dress shirt and some dress pants, and just I don't bother people by knocking on their door and being like, "Oh, have you heard about cannabis?" or anything like that. No, but I would leave all the flyers in the door handles. So that was definitely something that I think I'm able to do because of that. And as well, like I mentioned Prairie State Hemp. I have a lot of respect for him because in April or May, April on his soft open, I went and talked to him and I was asking him for his business when all I had really done was sell a couple of $4.20 items online. Because I opened originally October 2021, but it was just like a side gig that we did for fun because I was breaking all my pieces because I was high all the time. So like I had sold a few items, and I'd gone in there and he had absolutely no business doing anything with me. But I was able to talk to him in a way that he respected, so we hit it off from the get go. And then that was kind of like my breaking point into every connection that I have now. And where I'm at now is because that one conversation. But I don't think I would have been able to do that if I didn't have to, well, first claw my way, like learn how to do conversations and speeches as a Jehovah's Witness, but also with my own identity. I've had to claw my way out since I was 17. I've been on my own as a young teenager, and I bought my house here in Springfield when I was 19, and my wife and I have lived. We got married this year in May, so it's been a while now. Well, not a while, but we've been together for 5 years. But um, and yeah, like if it wasn't for that experience, I don't think that I would have the skills that I need to do what I do, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what was the term again for when you get like disavowed, or what is it, from the church?
Yeah. So for me, I was what's called disfellowshipped. Yeah.
Disfellowshipped. Gotcha.
Yeah. And actually, like, I did. So it's funny. I got disfellowshipped in, I think it was like April of 2017. It might have been May. I think it was May 2017. And I got reinstated. So I came back to the church in like March 2018. And then I moved out, and immediately just dipped away from the church because I knew that it was fake, right? The entire time that I was shunned, of course, or disfellowshipped, I had a girlfriend that wasn't in the faith that I was seeing all the time. And, I was smoking weed and just being a person.
Dancing with the devil.
Yeah, yeah, dancing with the devil, sinning against God, transgressions. But they tell you if you get reinstated that it's because you have Jehovah's blessing or whatever, and blah 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 blah. And I wrote like a really nice letter about the how I've realized the error of my ways. Sent a couple of those letters to the elders of the church, and they prayed about it and let me back in.
Why'd you do that?
Because it was the only thing I knew.
Okay.
Like whenever you're growing up, I was in Taylorville, like I said, which is only 45 minutes from here. But the friends that I had made in school, I wasn't really allowed to hang out with outside of school. So I didn't really have any connections. And whenever you get disfellowshipped, you can't talk to your friends or your family. So I had no friends, no family. And if I wanted to have any connections to who I was before, I needed to get reinstated. So I did that, knowing that I would leave pretty soon after. I didn't realize that what would happen is that I would get called out because my father's no longer in the church either. He's disfellowshipped. And they told me, "Oh, you're an adult. You don't need to be spending time with your dad now. Don't spend time with your dad." And I did. And I was at a haunted house in St. Louis. And one of the elders called me, and my pocket answered it. And, they just hear a chainsaw and screaming. And I realized that I'd accidentally answered. And they're like, "Nicholas?" I'm like, "Yeah." They're like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm watching a movie." They're like, "What movie?" I'm like, "Mission Impossible 5." It was the only action movie out at the time. But yeah, from there, like I knew that they were going to want to try to talk to me or whatever, like meet me up and disfellowship me again. And so I went and told my mom. I had dinner with her one night, my mom and my stepfather. And I was just like, "I want to, tell you I'm never going out in service again. I'm never going to the church again." So I remember that night was very hard, but it was like the best, like, looking back, it's like one of the best things I've ever done. Um, but yeah, just being like, just ripping the Band-Aid off and telling people that, no, I'm absolutely not going to be a part of this. Um, and so now, now, like, I've been in the newspaper for this cannabis company after being shunned for smoking weed and saying that I was not going to smoke weed anymore. So I have no idea what my official status is in the church, but whenever you become like a publisher, so like whenever you become like a unofficial member before you get baptized, they gave you a publisher card, right? So I became an unbaptized publisher when I was like 10, and they notate everything about you on that. So if they think that you're like, going to be somebody that's strong-willed, or would ask questions, they'll put that on the card. If they think that you're gonna just be submissive and fall in line, they put that on the card. But they put like all of your sins on it too. Like all the meetings that I would have to have with the elders, they would notate the things that I would tell them, and like any basic thing that you could do as a boy, like you can't watch any porn at all, or you get disfellowship. You can't,
like,
have.
how did that type of stuff come up, or like what?
Oh yeah, they guilt you into admitting it, and they'll do like they have like a bunch of propaganda videos and talks and stuff about telling on yourself and telling on your friends, and they really make you want to like they really make you feel like you have to tell on yourself in order to be in God's graces. But in my case, I as a kid I realized that I didn't believe in the church, so I would just do what I wanted, kind of, and hide it. But I had friends tell on us to adults, which is how I got in trouble. But yeah, you can't, like, anything that we would do that's kind of like normal, like, not to be like too R-rated or whatever, but like any form of having sex before you're married, like any form, not okay. You want to go on a date? Well, you can't date anybody until you're 18, and you have to have a chaperone on your date.
What do you
Men and women, like you can't.
chaperone?
Yeah. So say you and your girlfriend, your newly girlfriend, are both 18, and you want to go out and go on a date. Well, you have to have a chaperone for that date, and you can't be like alone in the same room as a member of the opposite sex, like, at all.
Just who foots that bill? Who's the chaperone? I'm just joking. Like, is it your fucking mom, or like who's the chaperone? How does that
Yeah,
work?
it could be a mom or a friend or whatever. It has to be a member of the church.
A
And you
member of
can't
the
date
church.
outside.
So
Yeah,
do
and
you
you
like
can't date out the church either. Yeah, so
you can't date out of the church? Oh, okay.
yeah,
Like you
no.
can't date somebody if they're not also a Mormon, or sorry, not a Mormon, Jehovah's Witness. Sorry,
Right,
I'm
yeah.
high.
Yeah.
But okay, so wait, what were we just saying? Oh yeah. So if you need a chaperone, right? Like if you're trying to go on a date with somebody, I mean, sorry, I might just be getting, because I'm high right now. I'm just like, if you don't have anybody that's willing to go, do you go to church like, yo, trying to go on a date? Anybody willing to come with me?
Yeah,
But
dude, for real. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
anyways, that's pretty crazy. So they just
Yeah.
like accompany you on your date, and it can be anything. Like, are they weird about certain activities? Like, are you not allowed to like dance, or like,
No,
or
I
what?
mean, as long as it's not like sexual in nature, like if you're
Okay.
doing like a romantic,
Like a
dance
square
or whatever.
dance?
Yeah, you could probably do yeah, square dance. Yeah. I mean, you can for sure square dance if you're Jehovah's Witness, but like, you
Tap
can't
dance.
grind.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
You
they're
can't
not
be
gonna be down for
twerking.
that. Yeah. But like, I
Yeah.
mean, it was so severe, dude, that like people would have to go and talk to the elders. Like couples would be talk to the elders if they were seen having a one-on-one date at a restaurant in public.
Hmm. So they're like, hey, you guys seem to be friends, let's just say. Um, what's going on here? You guys touching each other? Is that basically how the conversation
Yeah,
goes?
yeah, and they go into detail, man. If you get caught having sex before you're married, dude, they go into detail. They want everything. They want everything. They want to know
What,
how you
that's
felt.
how
Yeah.
you felt.
Yeah, all the details, like where the hands went, how long. If you knew how many thrusts they
Was she looking
did.
at you?
Yeah. Literally, were you making eye contact? Was it upright? Was she face down? Yeah. Yeah,
Did it
dude,
feel
in
really
detail.
good? Did you like
Yeah.
it? Like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. How many
wow.
times did it happen? Did you go to completion? Did both of you complete? Yeah, dude. Yes.
Are there particular things you enjoy?
Yeah, literally. You should have no expertise at all. And on top of that, you can't masturbate either. So
Right.
like they got all these sexually repressed kids that are like 18 that can't masturbate and they can't have sex until marriage. So then they all get married, like they turn 18 on May 1st, they're married by May 3rd,
Sure.
and then
Yeah.
they're in unhappy marriages and then they get divorced when they're in their 40s. Um just because one of them like leaves the cult or cheats on the other one or something, you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, man, like the rules are out there. The practices are bad, and like it's so messed up to the point where like this last weekend, last Saturday, it was my uncle's funeral. And luckily they had it on Zoom, but like they have the funerals at the Kingdom Hall. And for me, I'm a sentimental guy. So if they are doing a funeral, I would like to hear about the life of the person's funeral that I'm attending. But every funeral that they have is just another opportunity that the cult uses to preach to you. Um, so like my grandpa died in February, my uncle died a couple of weeks ago, and his funeral was this last weekend. I went to my grandpa's funeral. I watched my uncle's funeral. Both of the talks were the same. They talk about your loved one for maybe 2.5 to 3 minutes, and then the rest of the whole talk is a sermon about the hope for the earth and like going to Jehovah and all that stuff. Yeah.
That's
So
crazy.
yeah, it's yeah, I
Well, hey,
don't miss it.
man.
I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry for your loss on, both counts. And yeah, you're right. Those people, I don't even know them, but I already know that they deserved a better send off than that. But hey, we're talking about them right now and they still live on in your head. And I think that's what counts, if I may say so
Absolutely, man.
myself. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I feel good on that front, and
Hell yeah,
also too,
dude.
like
And
they were Jehovah's Witnesses their whole life, so they knew what their funerals would be, so they got what they wanted. It's not
okay,
like they've been
fair.
disrespected or whatever. But for me, as as a selfish person, of course I want to hear about the person whose funeral I'm attending.
Sure.
But yeah, the I've never really opened up about this before, so it was just a really thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about stuff like this.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's something that I mean, as long as people are comfortable, we try to talk about anything and everything on this show. And I guess just a few final questions because you kind of alluded to it earlier, and then we can wrap up. Like, it sounds like one of your friends is with you in business, right? Or
Hmm?
wait, you said they're maybe busy doing other things, but they're out of the church, right? I don't mean to make you speak on behalf of them, and if you'd rather not, that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, they're out of the church. Absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
Do you have other
Um,
friends that got out?
luckily for me, some of them did. But whenever it's different because whenever you're in the church, you call everybody brother and sister. And that's your whole life and your whole life revolves around who goes to the church. Like, I have people that I feel like are estranged siblings that have left the cult as well. But I'm not really close to them. Unfortunately, all besides my buddy Jesse, who I was talking about, and his brother Paul, um, nobody else nobody else has left. A couple of my cousins have left that are older than me, but most of the people that I grew up with, that I love like brothers, um, that I spent all my time with, are still in. My best friend of all time, growing up, I'm an only child. I don't have any like brothers or sisters. I have a stepbrother and a stepsister, but besides that, I don't have any brothers or sisters. Um, so this boy, his name is Noah, that I grew up with. He got married a year or two ago, and my mom told me, like, like on one of the few opportunities that I actually get to speak to my own mother, she told me that my best friend of all time, who was like my brother, got married. So no, not really, not really. I hope they do though,
You
for
hope they
them.
do what? That they do well or whatever. You wish them
That they
well.
get out. Yeah, man. I hope that they get out. Yeah,
Oh, you hope they get out. I gotcha.
yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Yeah. Are they allowed? Like, maybe this is a stupid question, but like, would he be allowed to like listen to something like this, or or is that an endorsement? Like, I mean, of weed and stuff. If you listen to content that's talking about anything like this, like, are there rules like that?
Oh yeah, for sure. So, like for one thing, if something's like an R-rated movie, or in even like like I said, you can't watch porn at all. But like if you can't watch like R-rated stuff too, so I didn't really grow up getting to watch Cheech and Chong or anything like that.
Yeah.
I didn't get to experience that until, relatively recently. Um, he probably wouldn't listen to this podcast at all because, of course, cannabis is already taboo and
Right.
prohibited. But on top of that, anybody that is a Jehovah's Witness that would be listening to this podcast would probably turn it off from minute one, when I said that I grew up as a Jehovah's Witness, and I know I'm not.
Sure. Fair
Yeah,
enough.
because they can't support me. Yeah, so they wouldn't want to give
I just
listen
figure,
time
I'm
to that
sure.
at all.
Yeah, I'm not trying to dwell on this or whatever, but I just figure if he, if you guys were really, as close as you say you were, I'm sure that from time to time he thinks about you, and you know how it is. You search each other up online. I'm sure you've done it. I don't know. Have you?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. No, well, you don't even have to
Oh,
say
yeah.
that, but like, you know what I mean? You look each other up online, like, cause you care about each other still. And
Yeah.
I'm sure he looks up your name sometimes, and I don't know. Yeah. But like you say, maybe he listens and he's like, nah, I don't want to, I'm sure I doubt if, like you say, if he or anybody in the church were to listen, they would have stopped, like you say, maybe towards the beginning when you said what you said. I don't know.
Yeah, and if they didn't stop then, they definitely stopped 20 minutes ago whenever you asked me to talk about it, because they knew it was not going to be an endorsement. And see, for them, they're not even allowed to talk to me at all. So hearing something like this, they would think that it's the devil's influence. I'm on a drug podcast talking negatively about the church. That's like the worst thing that you could do. Yeah.
Damn, we're out here. We're out here doing it, committing sins. Anyways.
But yeah, anyway, one promotion though, for committing sins, we're doing a coat drive at Prairie State Hemp. So if you wanna go donate to a heathen, do a coat drive. We're going on until the 19th. So yeah, we do a little bit more than sin out here.
That's awesome. So, coat drive, to make sure that people that don't have coats have coats, right? For people that are high right now and may not know. That may be me. Thank you for clarifying. So yeah, do you have you said when is it? And do you have like a link maybe we can throw in the description?
Yeah, I'll email you the Prairie State Hemp link. So it's over at Prairie State Hemp downtown in Springfield. And then it's 20% off. We're honoring it on 420 Pipes and in store, and I believe online at prairiestatehemp.org. So if you donate a coat to them, I'll be helping donate those coats on either the 19th or the 20th of December to the houseless here in Springfield.
Very cool.
So-
Very cool. Well, thank you for doing something very charitable like that. And yeah, folks, check that out. I'll try to throw the link or the information in there. Just look up, you said Prairie State Hemp. You can find the information online for that. So
Yeah, it's also on my Instagram as well. And that's FOURTWENTYPIPES. We got actually it's on my story right now. So
perfect. Sweet. We'll throw the Instagram handle in the podcast description as well, folks. So just check that out. It's got all the links. Make it easy on you. So, Nicholas, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today. Thank you so much for telling us about 420pipes.com. Folks, go there, get it, get all your weed stuff there. Like he said, he's got everything you need.
Thanks,
yeah, absolutely. So thank you so much. And folks, we hope you found value in this episode of the Chillinois podcast. We'll see you on the next episode.